Good evening to everyone. Good to see all of your faces out there. This is Barbara first, and Aaron's Christmas stories take me back to the first in December 1989. Sitting by the fire in my living room. And Aaron talking to us all about his beautiful memories of Yeshua. In those days, I was conscious channeling. And we had maybe a dozen people in my living room. So we've been doing this every December for over 30 years. Some of the stories have been repeated many times. There are only so many stories. As we grow and learn, it expands. This year, I'm so happy to have Colette doing this with me. Colette and I both can channel Yeshua and Anna and Mary. So the spirit will simply move into whichever body is available. It's just moving it back and forth. We had a good talk, Colette and I, and Spirit last night. Spirit telling us what they planned. And actually, we're going to get through some history of all of this. How did we get here? Why did Yeshua get here? How did it happen? Before we get into the Aaron Yeshua heart of it. And we will get into that. And at the end, probably some time for questions. So welcome and much love to you all. Back, not that first year, we were a small group, but in 91, 92, we sometimes had 25, 30 people crowded into my living room with a fire burning. And people brought cookies and popcorn and whatever. It was a lovely evening of love and companionship, as well as hearing Aaron. And at that point, I was not channeling Yeshua, as well as hearing Ariel. So, very good memories. So I have candles back there. Picture, if you can, a fire for Aaron and Yeshua, a campfire. So I'm going to start briefly by channeling Ariel. I'm Ariel, and I come to you in love. As a spokesperson for love. And as very deeply grounded in love. Long ago, before there was an earth, before the ones you call Yeshua, Aaron, and Mary, before they had incarnated, love was, it simply was. And there was use for a conscious expression of love. And I am one of those expressions, not the only one. The universe back then was balanced between positive and negativity. There was the intention amongst many very loving, powerful beings to co-create a heavier density planet. With the idea that, just one moment, I'm telling Barbara she can read the transcript and to stop trying to listen. So now I am more firmly in the body. There was the deep conviction that what we call mass, heavy density, solid mass, could move into a very positive polarity, and that a planetary mass could move into a positive polarity. The doorway to shifting that planetary mass from a neutral to positive was through the sentient beings that would be on the planet and their high vibration moving into the earth and helping raise the vibration of this planetary mass. And so they quote your scriptures. The earth was created. Let it be. Let it be. And those that would live on the earth were created. By created, I don't mean that some entity out there said, let it be. Don't think of God in the traditional terms doing it. But divine consciousness of which you are all a part came together with this, let it be. Let there be light, let there be darkness. Let there be land mass and water, sky. Let there be sentient beings upon that land mass and in the waters and flying through the skies. Let it be. The earth went through so many changes through millennia. In what I call a divine experiment, to see if something that is of its nature solid and thus heavier can bring forth that very high vibration. Many of us, including what you have sometimes called the brother or sisterhood of light, are deeply committed to bringing in this heavier density mass into a high vibration, into a positively polarized high vibration. Some of you are asking, well, can there be a negatively polarized high vibration? Theoretically, there could be. But high vibration, because of the high vibration, is uncomfortable to negativity that prefers low vibration. One of the things we work with then is vibration itself, the vibration, the spaciousness, the light. These are all hallmarks of positive polarity. And this is what we offered to support. As I call it, a divine experiment, an experiment of love. Because it is my deep, not just conviction in terms of a belief, but my heart's deepest knowing that light and love are the most powerful forces in the universe. Where there is a light, there is a love. Where there is a love, there is a light. There is spaciousness, there is joy. And all beings are committed to the highest good of all, because there is no concept of duality. This is the earth that I serve. This is the intention that I serve. And I know you do too. And this is why you have come into incarnation at this time. Fast forward through millennia. A 1,000 to 2,000 years before Yeshua's birth. There was a lot of darkness and negativity on the earth. People living very much in the contraction of fear and service to self. The earth was devolving into a lower and lower vibration. And the call was put out. Who will come in service to the light, in service to love, to help support the earth, evolving and transitioning into a higher vibrational planet, grounded in light and love. Many came forth, including all of you, perhaps not just at that moment in time, but here you are, so you came forth. Beloved ones, who you will hear from tonight, came forth. Starting with Anna. I am not saying she was the first. I am saying she will speak tonight. Anna, Yeshua's grandmother. So several thousand years before his birth, beings began to come into incarnation with the intention to create the field of readiness to support what he would do. And he began to prepare himself to come forth. A great bodhisattva is one term you might use for a being deeply committed to the highest good of all beings and to non-harm. A being deeply grounded in non-duality and in love, and who would support him and his work. And he is going to come in now and speak a bit about what it was like several hundred years before his birth at that Essene community, Mount Carmel, what they were doing there and elsewhere in the earth. And then we will hear from Aaron and Yeshua, from Mary Magdalene, because of course she is the divine feminine to his divine masculine, and always in balance. So I'm going to just let go of the body here now and let Anna come in. And then I believe Colette will bring in Yeshua himself. We'll see where it goes. I love you. I invite you to walk with me into the light, to know yourselves as light. I don't mean that you're always there basking in the light and saying, isn't it wonderful? There are times of heaviness, of pain, of confusion, but you are light. That is your essence. And when you close yourself into darkness, it is in defiance of your essence, or ignoring that essence. There is only one ultimate reality in this whole universe, and that is love. And the expressions of that love, such as spaciousness and light, joy. And it is a joy to be with you tonight. I'm going to let Anna take the body. I thank you. I am Ariel. My love to you. And they have got me. And before I was Yeshua's grandmother, I lived many other lifetimes growing on this earth plane, growing more fully into light and into my true nature. When it was time for, let's call it a support team for Yeshua, a support team for Mother Mary and all the others, Spirit called me forth, and I came happily, knowing it would be a very challenging lifetime. And yet knowing there was nothing else that I could be doing to which I would give more value and more joy. There was much to be taught and learned. He needed to come in through the process of light creation. And so humans had to learn that process. Something that I had learned many centuries, thousands of years earlier. I've said others. To practice that and pass it on. And thus, a century passed and another, until the world was ready. Truly at a critical point, because the earth was devolving more and more into negativity, and we needed the light he would bring. If you picture a doorway and everyone standing in that doorway, there needs to be some impetus to move it forward through the doorway. And he was the ground and the impetus. And he was ready. And of course, much of his training took place on the inner planes before his birth. I remember many of us gathered with him at counseling. Counseling is perhaps not the best word because it imparts one direction, sharing, making sure he knew what he was choosing to do. And that he was ready for it. And thus the time came. And it was not December 24th on the calendar, but whatever date it was, the evening in which he would be born. This light coming into the earth, filling the earth. There were so many, not just in the Essenian community, but throughout the world, that were holding the ground in preparation for his birth. All the awakened ones, the great masters of different traditions, all holding that doorway open with love. So this great bodhisattva could take birth. There is so much more I could share with you, but we have a full program tonight. I love talking to you, but now I'm going to quickly and very quickly give you Aaron to describe what he experienced as a young child on that night. And then I believe Colette will bring forth Yeshua himself. I am Anna, and I speak to you with a heart filled with love. I love looking at your faces and the light in your eyes. I am Ariel. My blessings and love. Ariel and Anna are a hard act to follow. I love them very much. And never have they made me feel in any way diminished by their light. I was named Ariel. And had lived for over 500 years. Elsewhere in the world. When a being for whom I had enormous love and respect came to me and asked me if I was ready to release the body of Ariel that had been revitalized through these centuries and to take a new birth as his son. In that area near where Yeshua would take birth. My father had chosen to be a shepherd because he believed deeply that the people who lived simply in the hills, taking care of the sheep, that they had the ability to move past the old fear, greed, and other such negative responses to life, and to truly open their hearts and live the light and love that they were. So he was going to come forth as a teacher, as well as a shepherd. And when he was at the right age, would I come forth as his son to help him? And of course, I was delighted to have this very precious work to do. And so Aaron left the world, and sometime later, a baby named Nathaniel was born to my father of that lifetime. I was raised partly within the Mount Carmel community and partly in the hills, as my father shared his time teaching in the Essene community and teaching the shepherds, and literally helping the sheep. And so I grew up learning how to be a shepherd. And I grew up knowing the teachings being given in the Essene community. We knew of his coming, and my father had taken us walking for many weeks, leaving our sheep with friends and into the hills outside Bethlehem, because my father was determined to be there at the time of his birth, and that I should also be there. The weather had been cold and damp, but that night the skies cleared and were filled with the brightest stars I had ever seen. Now, I was only 6 years old, not even 6, almost. The air sang with music. The stars were 1,000,000 suns shining forth on the earth, everything bringing down light, helping to ground the light that he also would carry with him. At first, I was afraid, but my father comforted me and reminded me, this will be the most wondrous thing that you have ever perceived. There was truly that one bright star shining down in the village of Bethlehem. And finally, my father said, "It is time." He took my hand, led me down the hillside. He carried a small lamb with him. And as we approached the place where the star shone down and light shone out, he handed me the lamb. This innocent lamb and the innocent babe within the stable, they are both equally divine. And the lamb will be a symbol for him through his life. Take it and give it to him. So I, the little boy Nathan, had the opportunity to carry this lamb in, and his mother and father were there, and they nodded yes. And I laid the lamp there where he could see it, and he smiled at me. That smile lit up my heart like nothing ever had. Now remember, I had just lived 600 years, teaching profound teachings, sharing profound teachings of Dharma, of energy, of love. But nothing had ever touched me like his smile. And I knew it. And I knew he knew me. And that we would share things in this life. And that I would be given the blessing to offer what little support I could to him. And that was the night that he was born. It is such a joy to me to remember. I'm going to leave the body now and invite Yeshua or Mary Magdalene or whoever may be coming in. Spirit will decide. I will definitely come back as Yeshua, and I will dialogue a bit later on. I love you. I am Ariel. I'm almost in tears as I hold this memory in my heart.
My beloved ones, I am Yeshua. What a joy it is to be with you. And thank you, my beloved Aaron and Anna, Ariel, for that lovely introduction this evening. Before Aaron and I will talk later, dialoguing about specific events and things that we shared in that lifetime, I would like to touch on a bit about what Ariel and Anna shared, and that is, I did not come alone. There were many beings supporting not just me, but the whole bringing of the earth into light. Of course, all things are always light, but as was said, as the earth had been created and had been, as you will, evolving, and populations had been evolving on the earth, there had come a darkness. The knowings that had been there in the times of Lemuria and Atlantis and other civilizations of that deep essence of oneness with all things, even though there was not perfect understanding of that, but it still existed. There was a communion with Gaia. There was a communion with all the elements, by which I mean the minerals, the crystals, the elements, the elementals, the plant kingdom, the fish, all of the kingdoms on the earth. There was communion with those and mutual respect and an ability to communicate. And yet, over time, the earth did devolve. It devolved into a darkness that had forgotten its origin, had forgotten its connection, and became embroiled in separation. And so while there is never a time where there is no light at all, but it was shrouded, it was very shrouded. There was much violence, much sorrow. And so as I prepared to come forth, it was not myself alone. It was many, many beings, both incarnate at different times on the inner planes, from other planes. Many of you were part of this planning, this support team. Perhaps not all incarnate together at the same time, but many of you knew me. You knew what the overall plan was. And so as I am here tonight speaking to you as Yeshua, I speak to you as my friends. You are all my friends. You are all friends to each other. Almost all of you know each other and have known each other. And when I came into the earth plane, some of you were there. Some of you were part of the Essene community. Some of you were not incarnate. And yet the whole earth, Gaia and all on it, were knowing that the light was coming. And you have heard it said that the Christ child who was born was called the light of the world. But I am here to tell you, you each are the light of the world. I am but one example. I am but one who consciously prepared for eons, if you will, to come to take this role as Bodhisattva, not savior, Bodhisattva. Each of you are Bodhisattva if you choose. And almost all of you have chosen to some degree, whether you would remember or not, or you would not be here. So we are family. And so while this Christmas season celebrates the light of the world in its traditional ways, I encourage you to know that you are the light. Envision the earth, envision Gaia as if you were far away in space. And envision me being born in this glorious light and the light from the heavens and the music of the heavens. And each of you all around the earth, whether you were in flesh or not, glowing and glowing, millions glowing. So I encourage you to look at yourselves, not as a limited human being, to not look at me or Aaron or others as if we are somehow special or other than you. It's true, we have different roles. We have prepared in different ways, but each of you always are your highest sixth density self. Each of you always are awake. You have gone on a journey into incarnation and accepted the veiling and the other limitations of incarnation to learn. And it is a difficult learning, but do not forget your essence. Do not forget who you truly are. Know that you are, it's not just I, Yeshua, that is the light of the word that is powerful. It is not just others who came at that time that you identify with in history. So expand your understanding of who you are. And I'm happy to answer questions about that later if we have an open session. But I also want to say one thing here. The earth remembers my birth, Yeshua, the individual who came. But just as you have understanding that there are male and female, there are male energies, female energies, there's truly no duality. But I did not come as avatar, as some have called me. I did not come alone. I came with Mary. Mary and I are one. We are avatars. We are consorts. However you wish to understand that. She was not born at the same time. She was not known as publicly in the history, but I will say to you that that history has been eradicated and distorted. But we came as one being. We walked as one being. And so whether she will speak tonight more, I will leave that to her. No doubt she will speak at other times. But I wish to pass the conversation on, but I just want to say, we are all the light of the world, and do not forget it. My love to you, my friends. I am Yeshua. I will release the body.
What a joy to share this with you, my beloved one. Yes, we were a part of the work together, divine masculine and feminine, and never separate. And yet, I bow to him. He is greater than I am, stronger, braver, with a greater heart. Neither of us could have done it alone. But I do take my place as a support to him, more than him as a support to me. Can you imagine what it took to carry that light, to break through into this heavy density world and to plant that light? So I'm delighted that I could support you, Yeshua. But you are the one who did it. I promise.
Ah, my beloved Mary, thank you for your words. It is interesting as you hear us speak that we are still the one, we are individuated in our own, as you would, subjective experience of those times are unique. And I would say to her, I could never have done it without you. It was essential. So you see, we still have that in when we come to you in the aspects of who we were as humans at that time. We still come to you not as icons. We come to you as humans with relationship. Thank you, my beloved one, Mary. And I would say, it does not matter what the world thinks. It does not matter that I had been given greater attention and Mary was not. That was very much because of what is happening now, where the divine feminine has been distorted, has been rubbed out or been debased for so long. And now, though, it is time for all that to come back together, for it all to be known. And there is no separation in divine masculine or feminine either, but there are unique and varying qualities which dance together, which support each other, which flow, which intertwine, which bring variety and uniqueness and a completeness that no one being has. Yes, each of you have masculine and feminine energies, and you can learn to appreciate them and balance them, and to do that in relationship with others. And they truly are not related specifically to biological sex, but that is another discussion. But I honor Mary in the way we walked through those very difficult times. And my beloved, it is a joy to speak here with you tonight and to share some of this with others. And I will pass this back to you. I am Yeshua.
Beloved one, give me your hands. Know all of you join in and feel our energy. You're part of us. Together, we shall bring this light deeper into the earth. A song that Barbara has loved. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome one day. The day is now.
Yes.
It is ready for the earth, the whole earth, to know itself as a light. Consecrate your energies, my beloved ones, as we celebrate his human birth, that you will give from within yourself to help overcome darkness by allowing the light that you are to shine forth, for this is the only way that we shall overcome. You say it's too hard. Do you think it was not too hard for him to be hung on a cross? Not too hard, but very hard. Do you think it was not very hard for me to watch it happen? And yet, as the centuries go by, we are standing in for the light that we are and holding it as precious beyond anything else. And we shall overcome. and bring forth a new day. I pass this to you, Yeshua.
Thank you, my beloved. There is so much to say. My heart is so full. I do not even know where to start, but I hope you can feel my love. I am sending you love. Space does not matter where love and energy is concerned. Let us all just for a moment sit. Open your heart chakra, feel that love, and offer it in blessing to Gaia and all upon her. This is not just fantasy. It is not just imagination. It is powerful. Energy is not bound by time nor space. Nothing impedes it. And in this way, as you learn to center yourself, not just in meditation, but even as you walk throughout the days, when you feel contraction, when you feel fear, when you read the news, whatever is taking you from this space, remember this is not gone, just open. Breathe and open and radiate. That is the most powerful thing you can ever do. And when I came that night, when I was born into flesh, through parents who had prepared for hundreds, thousands of years, if you will, to allow that opportunity for me to come into human flesh, that light that was actually a wonderful display in the heavens that came down on that simple place where I was born, the music of the spheres and the angelic beings, however you wish to conceive of them, all were there rejoicing, not simply because this babe came through in human flesh who had a particular job to do at that time, but that knowing, and I have said this to you before in the crucifixion, that the cross is the integration of matter and spirit. When I hung there, the energies, I became a channel of energy exuding all throughout through Gaia and anchoring it from heaven to earth, a clear channel for heaven to earth, no separation, the balance of matter and spirit. Each of you are that. You can continue to be the Christmas star. You can continue, as I've said before, to bring that light. And I could continue to speak as well, but there are others that wish to speak. So I will transfer this conversation to whoever wishes to speak next. My love to you. I am Yeshua.
I am Ariel. I greet you in the love and light. And so I saw that star, and the light it shined down to the earth was so powerful. It was like it was willing itself into the earth. And as we approached that state, you could feel the energy radiating out. Because I was a part of the Essene community, although not an integral part, did not live there. But I knew Mary and Joseph. I'd known them all of my life since I was a baby. And now I was all of 6 years old. So when I came in, I felt their welcoming energy. I know at some level I remembered what I had planned with that lifetime, even though I was just a little child. But we do remember why we have come. And I pass this to all of you. Put yourself there at the doorway to that step, feeling the radiance, and remember why you have come. Because all of you in this room have chosen to be on with at this time to help support the grounding of the light that he brought in. He may have gotten it moving, so to speak, but it takes all of us to help ground it. So now, Yeshua, let's move on to some of these wonderful stories. Grounding of the light. We were small boys, you perhaps 6 and me 11. We were with the sheep. You were permitted, I was permitted to bring you with me out into the countryside as they wanted you to learn about being a shepherd. At 11, I was young, but I cared for sheep. I was deemed mature and responsible enough to care for a 5 or 6-year-old boy. But really, it was you who took care of me, not me who took care of you. It was a cold night, sleeting. I could not get the fire started. No, I was 11. I was supposed to know how to start a fire. And you stood by and watched very patiently for a bit. Finally, not diminishing me in any way, but you just looked at me and said, "Come on, Nathaniel, start the fire." And you moved your hand forward and the flames came out. We have been learning how to do this in our classes. At 11, I had not quite mastered it, but you were the master of light. I pass it to you.
I am laughing because I remember that so clearly. And truthfully, I was somewhat impatient. So lest you think I popped out of the womb this perfect child with calm and peaceful and never got angry or emotional or whatever. I remember that time because I was thinking, Aaron, get on with it. But yet that was delightful and it was fun and we shared so many experiences together and I learned so much from my older friend Nathaniel, who put up with some of my boyish pranks at times as well. I pass this back to you, my friend.
Are you giving me permission to tell a prank?
Yes, I'm giving you permission.
I know you remember the time we put a sheep in the classroom. Your idea. I said, "Oh, we can't do that." And you said, "Of course we can." And so late at night or early in the morning, we brought the lamb down and just put him into the middle of the classroom. The adults were a bit annoyed with us. And yet, you had perfect logic about it. The sheep is the innocent. We need a sheep in the classroom to help people remember what they truly serve. And that made sense to me, and that's why I went along with it. Back to you.
Well, it made perfect sense as an example of the Lamb of the world and all of those things, except being a incarnate being, it had to eat and eliminate what it ate. And let us just say that that did not go over very well with the adults.
And because I was the elder one, I was asked to do most of the cleanup. Coming back to the IMR, coming back to that which is more serious for us. We lived in a world outside of the Essene community where there was much love and peace and support. A world where there was hatred, greed, and so forth. Sometimes when I would have the sheep out in the fields, boys who were not a part of the community would approach with malice in their hearts. Wanting to annoy us or even to hurt us. My loving father had taught me ways to deal with them, and I understood that I had certain kinds of power to stop them. But still, I was just a boy. One cold evening, Yeshua did not come into the hills with me with the sheep that often, but they make for good stories when he did come. So these boys came, and I knew them as bullies. They had thrown rocks at me. They had tried to steal and also to injure my sheep. The sheep were settled, and we were building a fire for warmth and to warm our food when these boys came. They were taunting us. They didn't pay a lot of attention to Yeshua because he was young. They were used to taunting me. Normally, I could hold my own with them, and I had not yet gotten into a fist fight with them. But I often ended up giving away all of my food. They came in demanding the food, as they sometimes did. I said no, as I always did. And finally, Yeshua, looking back and forth, finally said, why not invite them to sit and eat with us? Now, there is talk about the so-called miracles he did. And certainly one does not expect a miracle from a 6, 7, 8-year-old boy. 6-year-old, really, because it was before he went away again. I said, Yeshua, it won't go very far. He said, you're going to give it away to them anyhow. So why not invite them instead of saying no to them? Made sense. So I said, we don't have much, but come and eat. And they looked at each other, and I could see them thinking, oh, we'll take it all. Yeshua, I've never talked to you about this. I don't know how the food. There was never a huge show of food, but the bowl simply never emptied. I'm not sure what happened. We've never spoken of it. But I suspect you had some part in it.
Yes.
So we all eat peacefully until they were very full. And then they said good night and wandered off. That was it. And when I met them in the future, when I was not with Yeshua, but there alone with the sheep, and they would come up, I found they started to bring food to the fire, not just to take. There was some kind of transformation that happened. Very beautiful. Yeshua, I pass this to you for whatever you wish to add or in the subject as you choose.
Thank you, my
I'm
brother.
always curious about what happened.
Well, two things happened. And as a young child, I was not always fully aware. I sensed energies. I had much connection with guidance. I was never really truly alone. So I cannot take full credit that this young boy just stepped in and totally knew what to do. But what I did know, even at that age, was that when one is in a place of potential harm, such as these boys wanting to take the food, was that to meet resistance with a resistance only creates a contraction, and it creates no opportunity for, let's say, an opening to communicate. And so a part of me knew to say, if we offer them food, then we are coming from a place of love and welcoming, of inclusion. But the reason the food was never disappearing was because within that field of love, within that field of welcoming, there was the energy of co-creation. The food recreated itself. Yes, you can say, well, Yeshua, you did that because you brought this focused energy even as a young child. But it was not just totally me. There was a level where, as I had said to you, in that birth, there was communication with all of Gaia. Everything was connected. And so the energies that made that food, that made the fire, all those things were dancing with us to keep the food recreating itself. I know it sounds bizarre and like, Yeshua, are you sure about that? Yes. And the reason I'm sure is because you can do it too. But that's another thing, discussion for another day. That is what happened to my friend Aaron at that time. I transfer this back to you.
Thank you. So there I was, this somewhat bewildered little boy, Nathaniel, looking at my friend Yeshua and saying, how did you do that? And yet at some level, as Nathaniel, I knew. I think the most important gift you gave to me was helping me to know that it was not you who were special and really young, but that we all were special. We all were of the light. We all had power. Sometimes when you helped to manifest that food, I did not know how to do that. I knew you did. But there are other times in our lives, in our journeys. I'm thinking here of a time much later during your ministry, when we walked near a leper colony, and you heard the cries. There was a woman giving birth, and the baby was malpresented, so she could not pass the baby through the birth canal. I know that you could have brought the baby forth undamaged. Mother safe, baby safe. But you turned to me, your friend Nathaniel the shepherd and said, Nathaniel, you know how to help support birth. Please, can you help? I was reluctant because this was a leper colony, and I was very scared to touch this woman. But I trusted you, and I knew that you would not put me in harm's way. And that, furthermore, if I did catch this leprosy, that it was somehow for the highest good, because you would not have allowed that which was not for the highest good to pass to me. I might not have understood it at that point as good, but I trusted. And so, yes, I was able to turn the baby. And the baby came out safe. The mother was safe. All was good. But it's the first time that I remember anywhere in that lifetime where I suddenly perceived I have the power to bring in light. Not just you, Yeshua, but I do too. I understood that conceptually, but it's the first time I understood it deeply within myself. And as I look back, this is the essence of what so many of us received from you. This trust of ourselves as having the power to be agents of light and of love. And I thank you so much for that gift. I know we all do. I pass this to you.
Thank you, my brother. And as you say, in that experience, of course, I could have stepped in, but when you stepped forth to do something that was fearful and uncomfortable in many ways, but successfully brought the baby into the world, that was, as you say, an opening to knowing that you also are the Christ. You also can stand in that light and that love and walk with that and touch the world with that and help where you can. And also trusting that whatever would come from that would be teacher. You have all heard the saying, all is well, all shall be well, our manner of things shall be well. And that is the essence as you walk your life, to know at every point you have choice. And you may think, well, I don't know how to make the right choice, or you make a choice and it seems to fall apart and then you blame yourself. But trust that the essence of what you are learning and how you are growing and developing is bigger than whatever it looks like on the surface at the moment. You can each step into that place. So thank you, my beloved Aaron, for bringing that forth. And I do remember it well, and how doubtful you were at the time, and yet you stepped forward. You did it. You became the Christ in that moment. I pass this back to you, my dear friend.
Thank you, Yeshua. So now we come to today. In this world in which beings still slaughter other beings out of greed, hatred, prejudice, and fear. And I know your message is love one another, but I think people would like to hear from you. How do we love one another in a world that I know the light has been planted, but how do we bring it forth and make it stable?
Thank you.
Barbara has been deeply saddened by the war in Ukraine. It's not often in human history that one has been able to sit in one's living room and watch a war. Watch the immensity of destruction, of loss of life, of cruelty. For me, of course, as Aaron now, it's not hard to have faith. I'm no longer Nathaniel, I'm Aaron. I see the big picture. But for these youngs, it's so important for them to understand how to hold the deeper truth of love in their hearts and to live that truth, even in the face of such terrible destruction. Yeshua, I know you understand the importance here. But let me share this with our gathered friends. The world is at a tipping point. It's going to evolve into fourth density. Is it going to be fourth density, positive or negative polarity? Is the light that Yeshua brought in going to be enough to anchor us? Well, that's not really the question. The light is there, and it is always enough to anchor us. The question is, what do we do with that light? Do we know the light? Trust the light? Walk in the light? It's easy for me to speak. I'm not in a human body. But you, my friends, are the ones who are doing it with a lot of love and commitment, and yet also with fear. Each time you move more into the darkness, it supports the move into negative polarity and darkness. Each time you hold to the truth of light, it supports the move to positive polarity. Not so easily done. So I hand this to you, Yeshua, for any thoughts you might like to share about it.
Thank you, my brother Aaron. As you all know, the earth is at a very intense point right now, coming up to this transition to fourth density. As I have said before, the earth herself, Gaia, is already orbiting within fourth density energy field. She herself already embodies fourth density energy. But the humans on the planet who are here in third density to make choice, that is one of the reasons for third density, and is the veiling, is for beings to choose the path of separation and service to self, or the path of non-duality, of love, of unity. In and of itself, free will is the gift of the Creator. This particular universe is based on free will. It may seem hard to fathom, but there are other creations where there isn't free will. It's a whole different model, if you will, or as Ra says, a whole different logos, a whole different template. But the template of third density is the place of choice. So you have many beings on this earth, some native to earth, some who have had experiences on many other planets, not originally from Earth. You have a combination of those who are not ready for the fourth density change. They are simply in neutral, if you will. They have no understanding. They they are just young souls, if you will, not evolved yet. They are just existing. You have those that are seeking to know the path of separation, some very highly evolved and developing that path and seeking power and control in a global way. You have others that are simply drawn to that path. You have those that are moving more and more into knowing we are all one with everything on the earth, with every other being, with all in the universe as well, but thinking of just Gaia, and who are beginning to have this understanding that there is no reason that every single being on this earth cannot have all needs met. The earth is full of abundance. Every being could have a home and food and healthcare and all the needs met. So you have this, and then in addition to that are those such of yourself, many who are wanderers, many who have come here. Maybe you don't remember it now, but with full intention to contribute to this transition, to hold the trajectory of fourth density positive. So you have the people that are in neutral, if you will, and you have very, very strong opposite groups, those who wanted to go negative, those positive. And so it's not just a wishy-washy thing. There is this tense clash of polarities. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. I'm simply explaining some of it. So because you see this clash of polarities, which I will say to you and have said before, the media only focuses, at least the mainstream media only focuses on the most traumatic, awful things that are going on. They foster separation and conflict. And I'm not saying it's not important to see what is going on in Ukraine or in all the places around the world, not only with war, but with climate change, the devastation of the environment, the disappearing of species, all of that. It's important to know it. But one thing you can do to hold the light is to be very careful about what you expose yourself to. I am not saying do not be aware. It's important to be aware, but then to take yourself to center, to take yourself into that place of peace, however, and grounding, however you do that. I'm not saying it has to be a specific way. And within there, begin to, I imagine, as I think of you as the Christ, the lights of the world, to expand your heart chakra, just radiate the light. But that does not mean if you're radiating light, you are oblivious or you do not care or that the suffering does not touch you. The more you open to know light and oneness, the more your heart will break. It will break with the suffering of the world and all that's happening. So in that place, when you center yourself, you may grieve, you may cry, you may wail, you may rage. Emotion is not a sign of something wrong, but with that emotion, just let it flow like a geyser. Hold it in life, cry, move the energy, move the anger, move the sadness, move it out with love, and hold the spaciousness. So that may seem contradictory. You may say, well, Yeshua, that's kind of ridiculous. Isn't it awful to be angry, or isn't grief awful? It's painful, yes, but you can experience intense emotions without contraction. A human will have emotion. If you didn't have emotion, you would be a robot, an AI creation or something. You would not be human. Emotions are not your enemies. But with a full heart, you can grieve. With a full heart, you can dance. With a full heart, you can see the suffering and yet not be contracted. There's a difference. And going forward through this year, perhaps I will speak more on that. So it is not to run away, to not see what is going on. It is not to bottle up the emotions in contraction, trying to hold it in and to just get through. It's to be fully human, fully alive. But yet, when you see the war, when you see the destruction, be with that, cry, allow that to flow, hold it in this heart of love, and then move out and walk in the world as one of love and light. Pet your kitty with as much tenderness as you can. Say hi to the mailman. Ask the clerk at the grocery store, how's your day? Or just say, gosh, that's a pretty shirt. I'm making these things up. But the point is, take that light with you in every single moment, because the moment you're in is the only one you have. But that moment is cumulative. So I know I'm not fully addressing this. It would take much time. But what I'm saying is, do not run away from the suffering, but do not embroil yourself in it. Do not entrain yourself in it. Know it, then take yourself to center. Let it flow. If their anger is there, feel it, know it. As my beloved Aaron says, right there with the contraction, where's the spaciousness? You don't have to eliminate it. It will release itself. It may come back, but in that moment it releases and you become a glowing orb of love and light, and then walk with it. You walk with it in 1 second. 2 minutes later, you get a bill and you're all angry. Okay, fine. Settle yourself. Come back to light. It is not a one-time thing. It's a moment to moment to moment awareness, and with intention to come back to center. Not because you want to be perfect or be impervious to the grief and suffering and the horror in the world, but only to stay there brings nothing to help. So remember who you are, cry with the world, grieve with the world, but bring everything into your heart and find what gives you joy. All around the world are millions of wanderers like yourself, this younger generation coming up, the starseeds, if you will, little ones, prodigies, little ones by 10 years old, creating inventions that can transform the world. That is all there. So do not lose your hope that just because you do not see it, that nothing is happening. It is all as if, I have used this analogy before, the seeds are in the ground and they're vibrating, and then a little sprout comes out. All beneath you, if you think of this, in this earth, billions of sprouts, billions of star seeds, beings of love and light like yourself at different stages. So do not give in to this vision of hopelessness, because then you add your energy to those who want it to be hopeless, who want it to be a planet where they can manipulate and control and exploit everything. Do not give your energy to that. Keep coming back to center and bringing as much love as you can in the moment. And that includes love for yourself. And love does not mean allowing anybody to do anything they want at any time. You also need to have wisdom, be able to have boundaries. That's another discussion. So perhaps I have wandered far afield, but what I am saying is be fully aware and take yourself to center. Know who you are, and moment by moment by moment, light the candle of light and love. Touch another through words or a glance, through a hug, through bringing them a cup of water. I'm very much simplifying. That's how you change this world. That's how you add to the energetic field of potentiation. That is how you co-create what is possible. So focus on that. Bring yourself to knowing that as often as you can. I am Yeshua.
I am Ariel. I love you so much, my friend. What a joy it is to hear you speak. Love, just love. As you said it 2,000 years ago, love one another. That's all there is.
Yes.
Yeshua, shall we open this to questions?
Yes.
I am Mary, and if I may, I would like to speak to that a bit. Darkness is the absence of light. Ultimately, there is only light. But as you move to darkness, you draw distance from the light, so it seems less attainable, less accessible. But darkness, if it wishes to know its true self, must also look to the light and know itself as a light. It may be revolted by the light, terrified by it, and then it backs up. But if we keep offering light to the darkness, let us say its wholly a flaw is that it seeks to know itself, and if it seeks to know itself, it must come to know itself as a light. And so it must come back to knowing the light. And once it knows the light, it begins a very gradual shift in polarity. Eventually, it knows that it was never darkness, that it was always light, and that will take as many eons as it needs. But the beginning is to keep offering light to darkness. I pause to see if there's something Yeshua would like to add.
Thank you, my beloved one, Mary. As Mary says, in essence, there is nothing but light. But the option to explore darkness is there, because within the creation there is darkness, not ultimate darkness. There is both, but as I was speaking of free will, there is this choice. All beings have choice. And so many are exploring darkness. And ultimately, in the end, all beings come back to their full integration in light and back to source when they release individuation. But in exploring darkness, there can be, as you know, much pain and suffering from the one that is following that path and for those they impact on the earth. So no one can really force somebody to change their path. The most you can do is you be the light. You be that point of love, so that when they encounter you, they have choice for themselves to see, this is a different way. Do I want this? What is here to explore? Now, many won't explore that necessarily at the time that you encounter them. But you're offering this light in yourself. It's like offering food to one who is hungry. They may take it or they may not, but continue to offer. I pause. I'm Yeshua.
I am Mary. Thank you, Yeshua. And when we hold that field of free will in front of people and remind them they are never trapped, that they always have the choice to choose this or that, to choose darkness or light, to choose spaciousness or contraction, to choose to suffer and cause the suffering, let me say it differently, cause the ground for suffering to others. Well, who can say that's bad? Perhaps people needed to suffer a bit in order to learn about not suffering. We can't condemn people, but we can hold a strong boundary and intention saying, you may not do harm. Therefore, if a being needs to experience something negative in order to grow and to learn to resolve karma, to make more skillful choices, if it's offered with the intention for non-harm, the being will extract that moment and use it in a rightful way. But if negativity offers the same thing out of hatred, then some beings won't be able to deal with that, will be overwhelmed by it. So it's vital that you come to know your own intention, not to be afraid of movement, actions, or words that are uncomfortable to others, but to know your intention in offering it. If somebody is trying to steal the food from my fire and all the hungry people there, and I say no, am I saying no with an intention to harm, to starve that person who's trying to steal? Or am I saying no with the intention to awaken that person, or offer the tools for awakening to that person, for them to see what they are doing and that they have free will, that any suffering that arises within them is of their own free choosing. Nobody has ever forced it upon. It does become complex. As Yeshua said, perhaps we'll look at more at some of this. I know Ariel intends to look at some of it himself and with Yeshua and others of us, second semester in classes. And perhaps we'll have other opportunities to talk as well. Thank you. Unless Yeshua wishes to say more about this, we can open this to another question.
I have nothing further to add. I will open this to questions. I'm Yeshua, I will speak on that. The world, the cultures, the societies have all invented rules for what is light or dark, good or bad, should do, shouldn't do. I'm reminded of an old Catholic tradition in catechism where they would talk about sins, small sins, venial sins, mortal sins, those of you who have some experience with that. And they would show a little milk bottle. And if it's just a little sin, it's just little black flecks. And if it was a mortal sin, it was totally black. You were going to hell. It was hopeless. I'm not really making fun of that, but just saying that societies and cultures have defined what is good or bad. Societies have not allowed ones to experiment in safe ways to discover for themselves. So there can become a fixation on what is good, right to do, you should do, and the opposite of that. But what that does is then it actually brings more attention to, if you want to call it the negative path or the things you shouldn't do. And so there is this great tension, and there's no freedom to explore. It's one thing to explore, if you will, darkness, negativity, separation, without an intent to truly harm yourself or others. There's degrees of that in there. But most of that carries through in a human lifetime from however they were raised or whatever traditions they've been in. So darkness in itself is not evil, is not bad. It's something that exists. It's something to explore. And sometimes when beings feel drawn toward whatever they would term as darkness, it really disturbs them. And to some degree, you need caution because you don't know where that may lead. But at the same time, you have the right to learn for yourself. But being who you are and coming in here with love to bring no harm to others, that's really the core intent of all of you. So you now have wisdom to discern. I don't know if I'm answering your question exactly, but so you have wisdom to discern what really is light and dark, because the culture might define something that's not really dark. It's just a free will exploration. So there's this point of beginning to release yourself from all the enculturation and to notice that contraction when it arises, or that self-judgment, and really look at that, hold all of that with love and compassion, and then make a discernment. Is this really negative or bad, or am I struggling with old enculturation, if you will? I'm happy to answer this further. I don't know if I'm addressing what you are really asking, so please say more. When there's that feeling one should do that, but there's a contraction, that's a sign that whatever this expectation is that should be done, there's something that's not compatible there. And oftentimes doing what one feels they should do, whether it's simply not saying no to somebody who wants you to do something you don't feel like doing, or not speaking your truth because you feel they'll be offended. When you feel that contraction, sit with it and ask, what is this really about? Because maybe that's an opportunity, if you can see it for what it is, that you can speak your truth clearly to, say, your mate or someone else, or you can set a boundary or a limit. There is such a sense of being good and kind that you never offend people. You never say no. You never hold a limit. And if you do, you're really not being nice because you hurt their feelings. You should always meet everyone's needs. Actually, the more authentic you are in holding your own space with love or your decision, you allow them then to confront their own expectations. They may not do it, but you cannot rescue them from it. It is their journey to learn.
I am Ariel, and I would like to add something to that. The qualities of compassion, mercy, and forgiveness are so vital. In this earth, you are within Earth's karmic field. There will be personal and more universal karma, and the repetition of certain habitual patterns for the self and for all beings. As you heal the karma for yourself, you heal it for all beings. And the path out of suffering involves the deep release, or at least the balancing of that karma, both really release and balance. If there was no catalyst, if you lived in a wall of armor where nothing bounced off you, including your own self-condemnation or choices or ideas, there would be no opportunity to move into the ever-growing, infinite field of mercy, compassion, and forgiveness. Without those, the earth remains stagnant. We're talking about expanding light, enhancing love. How can you do that if there's nothing that ever seems to limit light and love? And then your free will choice becomes important. Each of you. Free will choice is what will save the earth and bring it through into positive polarity. Your choice to choose light and love, even if that simply means forgiveness for yourself, for moving into a somewhat negative pattern. That's also light and love. Hit against the wall until you say, no, this has to stop. And forgiveness for yourself, compassion for yourself, mercy for all beings or out there banging their heads against the wall. This is such an important part of the bringing forth of light, the grounding of light. I pause. What is the use today for conscious expression of love? I passed you that question. When there was simply non-duality, just the light, before there was any idea of duality, there was no such distinction made between light and dark, spaciousness and contraction, love or absence of love. But as the universe grew into something that could hold polarities, and positive and negative polarity formed, at the very beginning of polarity, then it was essential, let me say it differently, then an essential ingredient, if you were to choose a positive polarity, it was simply to love, which is the ground of positive polarity. It really is as simple as that. Do you choose a universe that is more grounded in hatred and fear and contraction, or one that is more grounded in love and light? If the latter, then you are going to want to look at the places where you contract with service to self, with absence of love, and say, what is this about? What blocks the free flowing of love that is the essence of all that is? Because there is no place where love is not. There is only that which seems to be diminished in love, because it is blocked. This is why negative polarity has no ultimate existence, because you cannot go into any place where there is a total absence of love and light. Only relatively less and less of this. But the essence of love and of light remain. And the negative polarity, as far as it will go, into service to self, into darkness, it hits a barrier, because it comes to the point of light and of love, and it must work its way back, all the way back into that space of love and light. Yeshua, do you wish to add to that? I am Aaron.
Thank you, Aaron. And when you say there was a use for the earth to be created, if I understood your question correctly, what was that use? And it's, as Aaron is saying, it was, the use was to provide an environment of choice, provide an environment that was not just on a spiritual plane, say, that was not in a dimension of existence where beings are basically just energy. It was to provide a base, a container where there was both matter and spirit. And so the use was to offer that, a place where beings could come and experiment with matter, experiment with light and dark, experiment with spirit, if you will. So it was I don't want to use the word like playground in a way that it's lighthearted, but a place of experimentation to see, can the human who is both matter and spirit can they balance and bridge the difference? Can they experiment with free will, with positive polarity, negative polarity? It is a place of free will, of choice. And can matter and spirit become integrated? So in a sense, they include and yet transcend each other. I don't know if that answers your question or makes it more complicated. I pause. I am Yeshua.
I am Aaron, and I thank you for being with us tonight. I love you very much. Please remember as you celebrate my beloved friend Yeshua's birth, that you are celebrating all of your birth into light.
Yes.
You are all awake. You all have free will choice to choose the light, to be the light. And if you end up falling into darkness for a while, to have compassion for yourself. Step back away from the darkness and again choose light. And in this way, the earth and the whole universe shall emerge into light. I don't say that as a question, but as a deep knowing. However long it will take, this earth is grounded in light and will be light. And you are part of what is making it happen, an essential part. I thank you. I love you. I am at Yeshua. Do you want to say any farewell words?
I am Yeshua, and I just want to say, remember that you are the Christ. The world happens to particularly remember my birth, but each of your birth is just as significant. And in essence, we are eternal. We are the creator. Remember who you are. My love to you. I am Yeshua.
Thank you, everyone. This is Barbara. And it's been a joy to be with you. And Yeshua, thank you so much. Everything you said really just resonated with me and brings so much joy. Thank you to all the entities who participated. That's all. Good night.